Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching. Then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, Jin, Click OK, Arthur, Adam, Wandek, D-Rose, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So, welcome one and all.
Let's get it on!
Hey,
How you doing, everybody?
buenos dias. Buenos dias.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Thanksgiving.
When's
Yes,
Thanksgiving?
indeed. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Gobble, gobble.
When's that exactly? Today?
Today is the day we celebrate the Pilgrims and the Indians joining, holding hands, singing Kumbaya.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I did not know that. It's not something we celebrate here. For us, it's Thursday.
And then they killed each other over the cranberry juice.
Wait a second. That's a quote from Rocky. Because Adrian says, but it's Thanksgiving. He goes, it's Thanksgiving to you, but to me, it's Thursday.
It's also
Damn
a
it,
line
Neil,
from
I was just
Street Fighter. Raul Julia says
Hello,
it to
everyone.
the Chun-Li character. She's like,
Hey, Nathan.
you took away my family. She's like, the guy playing is M. Bison, the character. And he's like, for you, it was the most devastating day ever. You lost your family, you lost your father. For me, it was a Tuesday.
Hey, guys. Hey, Nathan.
Hello, George.
I think we should update the intro. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. There is no debate anymore.
What's the namesake?
The debate is
The
finished.
name of the show.
Yeah, I understand, but it's not a debate anymore, and it's also one of the names suggested to the book. So I think welcome to Flat Earth should be enough.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I have contemplated it, I won't lie. As in, do I need to change the name of the show? Because the current rhetoric is exactly as George has just pointed out for my audience's benefit. What George is saying is, why is the show called Flat Earth Debate? There is no debate. If both sides require Earth be measured flat, why would you call it a debate? I wouldn't. It isn't. We measure Earth flat. Earth is flat. That's how it's measured. What's that? You don't like Earth being measured flat and want to say it isn't? Well, then you've got to give up all the measurements because all of the measurements of Earth are flat. What's that? You do want to use the flat Earth measurements? Yes, because it's flat. Earth's flat. That's how we measure it. There is no debate. It was just creating an illusion of debate that we had to suffer for the last 10 years. But the reality is there isn't one. But it's still just the namesake. It's just the name of the show now.
Yeah, but Nathan, that you're talking about the ballers there. What about the flat earthers that don't want it to just be the measurements? They still want to talk about globe debunkings and how we see too far and all these other things. You can't just say Earth is measured flat and game over.
You don't have to do anything, right? Now. So from my heart to you, fellow flirfs, formerly known as, right? I now call you anti-globers, because that's where you are, right? Saying we see too far for a ball is being an anti-baller, yeah? You don't like people who have a religion that they're on a ball. So you brace against the religion of being on a ball when you say things like, we see too far. Too far based on what? How far a ball says we should see? Well, that's you bracing against ball faith. It's not demonstrating Earth's flat. The measurements used within the calculation to say or suggest how far we should see on a ball are flat. That's all I need. The moment you start detailing horizontal linear mile measurements to oil rigs, You've proven Earth's flat. That's how it's got to be measured. The moment you describe perpendicularity with height above surface level or sea level as an average, or the measurement of the average itself, as someone was pointing out in the comments, which I thought was genius. I think it came up on the show. To take an average of the sea level, you need a flat Earth to do so. You're talking about perpendicular to a plane for all three, if you're taking three, for the average. So to create an average sea level, you need Earth to be completely level as a plane of reference to describe and measure that as an average. That's how it is ultimately measured. In all respects and without exception, Earth is measured flat. So for you, formerly known as flat earthers, mocked and ridiculed as flurfs, now relabeled by me as anti-globers, you can say we see too far. But what's dictating how far we see? A globe Earth calculator that requires you punch in flat Earth measurements. Me? It's not that serious. We don't need any of these calculations. We don't need to declare we're seeing too far. The measurements themselves show how Earth has been measured. Flat. So it's not that serious. It's not like we need to go around showing our prowess in debate by showing how far we should or shouldn't see. It really isn't that serious. It's just measured flat.
It's on the definition of the words. Yeah. The definition of horizontal, yeah, anyone can Google this. It's parallel to the plane of the horizon at right angles to the vertical. That's the definition of horizontal, parallel to the plane of the horizon. And vertical, that's the definition of vertical, perpendicular to the plane of the horizon. The definitions are there. It doesn't mention curvature. People just need to understand English a bit better.
Exactly. You just need to understand English and you'll understand how flat Earth is. Because it is. That's how we measure it. So it's really not that serious. We've been educated in anti-heliocentric rhetoric. And to be an anti-heliocentric purveyor of truth in your mind, you need to become quite overse or, educated in what heliocentrism stands for and how it operates. So you need to become a globe Earth knower to suggest how Earth isn't a globe. Like Parallax. What's the book called? Something like How Earth is Not a Ball? Well, describing how Earth's not a roast chicken makes you an expert in roast chicken. To say Earth's not one? Well, I'm not going to do that anymore. It's not that serious. We just measure Earth flat. So why would I need to know how Earth isn't a roast chicken and explain how it's not something? I don't need to explain to anybody why Earth isn't something else anymore. It's just measured flat for everyone in all circumstances and without exception. If you want to believe you're on a ball, then you'll need flat Earth measurements. If you want to believe you're not on a ball, then you'll need flat Earth measurements to create a ball for you to say how it doesn't work. For me, it's just like I say, it's not that serious. We just measure Earth flat, and there aren't any exceptions to that.
Au contraire. But there are people out there who think the Earth is a chicken, roast chicken. And the fact that I know how to cook roast chickens, I can then discuss with them how Earth isn't as the roast chicken and you've made a mistake there. You're slightly delusional. So for me, I don't mind having to explain to them that Earth is measured flat. And if they ask me, what do I mean by that? I'll elaborate on that and say to them, you're not on a roast chicken. Okay? Those people are out there. I'm prepared and ready for those people. Thank you.
Fair enough. Regardless, as I say, I don't think it's that serious. When people have a belief, they're entitled to it as far as I'm concerned. You think Earth's the roast chicken? Oh, well, good for you. On you go. You're entitled to your belief.
See, but Jim is the unique one. Think about it, because he knows for sure, without a doubt, that Earth is measured flat. He's got that locked down. But he's still got all that other stuff in him. So he's able to go whatever way you want to go.
Yeah, I get it. But what if Jim was arguing with a baller right now, I'd feel compelled to in the break, without being rude, say, look, lads, it's just not that serious. You're both measuring Earth flat.
Yeah. And he would say, agreed. Right, Jim?
I would say affirmative, correct. But one of us seems to think that it's not measured flat, and that'll be the one that thinks it's a roast chicken. Now, the fact that I know how to roast a chicken and roast it well, together with me parsnips and Yorkshire puddings, yeah, and your gravy and your Paxo stuffing. Right, because I know all these ingredients, I can explain to him that he's got the ingredients in the wrong place, in the wrong order. We're not on it. You're not eating a bloody roast chicken. Okay, it's flat Earth. It's measured flat. This is why. Thank you.
Speaking of roast chickens, I put a little song in the Master B. It's about a roast chicken, actually, and Nathan spitting out facts. Might be worth a... You've heard it before, but great little tune. And I think you meant to say mean sea level before, Nathan, not sea level. It's mean sea level.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, mean sea level. And great video the other day, One Deck. Great video. Okay.
I'm spitting facts that Earth's measured flat. You might not like that, but facts are facts. Vertical heights from surface level. Horizontal linear measurements on the scale of maps axiomatically proves that, ooh, you might not like that, but facts are facts. And I'm spitting it flat and that perpendicular to a plane of reference that's height right parallel, flight level above sea level. If the Earth was flat, we would measure it flat. We measure it flat, so Earth is flat. And I'm spitting facts about that. You might not like that. You can't assume Earth a sphere by circular reasoning, but when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme. If the Earth was flat, we would measure it flat. We measure it flat, so Earth is flat. And I'm spitting facts about that. You might not like that. You can't assume Earth a sphere by circular reasoning, but when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. And I'm spitting it flat and that. If the Earth was flat, we will measure it flat. We measure it flat, so Earth is flat.
Very good. That was If Earth Was a Big Roast Chicken by One Deck.
Yeah, the roasted chicken thing. That cracks me. That cracks me on the roasted chicken.
If you just want to hear it better, you got to go to the live show because we only get a certain way here.
Yeah, all my noise cancelling kicks in when you're listening to it in the Hangout, so it just sounds terrible to you guys. But that's okay. It sounded great to the live audience, I'm certain of that.
But it's right, innit? You're spitting out facts about how it's measured, and people don't like that. When you get down to the facts of the measurement, they don't like it.
Both sides. Make sure you clarify that. Both sides do not like it.
Yeah, the reason the flatties don't like it, or as I'm calling them now, anti-globers, is because they're having their intellectual prowess robbed from them by me. Like, we were sounding very intellectual when we were talking about the distance to the geometric horizon at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and how this distance to this geometric horizon in this image is beyond the limitation set down in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. And when I go through all of those facts, I sound extremely intellectual. You come along and go, it's not as serious, we're just measuring Earth flat, the distance is flat, the height off surface level's flat. The surface level itself is flat. The sea level's flat. The altitude's flat. The eye level's flat. It's all flat. It's just how it's been measured. So it's not that serious. I rob them of their ability to sniff their own farts and sound like intellectuals. That's why they don't like me. The flatties. Former flatties. I'm calling them anti-globers.
But you must be careful, though. Au contraire, once again, you must be careful because there are flat earthers out there who are looking at themselves as they're just dealing with their facts on how to bring the so-called globe believer into the reality of he or she is not living on a globe and they are living on a flat earth that is measured flat. Now, that's not an individual wanting to turn intellect, just trying to tell the truth. That's all they're doing. They're not going out thinking, oh, I'm smarter than that guy. Okay? That's not them. That's not the mentality of the flat earther that I've met. Okay, there are one or two of them out there doing that. That's not the majority of the flat earth community. Sorry, I don't see
Yeah,
that.
maybe that's huge, and so I agree with you there. But there were people that sat right on this panel that fought it tooth and nail, and their intellect was being challenged, or not even being challenged, just not needed anymore, and that was driving them crazy. And they would fight tooth and nail against measured flat. You're not that. You don't fit into that. You don't fight against it, Jin.
And I can also speak for other social media platforms other than this one or whatever service it's on, this whole thing that y'all be talking on. And at the end of the day, nobody speaks about the measurements. They're still talking about everything else that we deem as the feast of nonsense. And I always have to comment in caps, the measurement factor. So no, I don't know if they're the majority, but the ones that call themselves anti-globers or flat earthers are still never mentioning the measurements, but they're mentioning everything else.
Strange.
Ice walls, the firmament, the lights in the sky, everything that you could think of, every aspect, every ingredient that you could think about that we've known from the beginning since it became on social media, but they're not mentioning the measurements.
Yeah, and it's happening more
but
and more because we mention measurements. Because Refracted said one time a while ago, he said to measure is to know. And when you know something, and you know something by measuring it, right? So now they're fighting hard against that, and it's like the feast of nonsense is rearing its ugly head again because they have to put flat Earth into the conspiracy realm, especially now because the measurements are out there.
Yes, there you go. You just said it. You
I
nailed the
think
coffin.
that's
yeah,
what
but
nailed the coffin.
the globers have the mindset that of a finite size of Earth. Yeah. So when they ask us for the measurements of the Earth, they're expecting to hear from us a measurement of an area with limitations, like ice walls and stuff like that, domes, because the mindset that they have is a limited area, finite. This is the size of our world. It doesn't happen like that. But in any circumstance, in any thing that we operate with the Earth, you always have to measure it flat.
Right, we
Yeah,
covered this
once
a
you
couple of
measure
days
it
ago.
flat for a certain distance, it's flat.
We covered
Yeah,
Schopenhauer a few shows ago. First, it's ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. This is the case with Flat Earth, and for 10 years I've been trying to fathom out what it would be that would allow the public to go, I always knew it was flat. Now that won't be true, and we damn well know that, having slogged our guts out for 10 years in this subject matter. But the public needs an ability to say, I always knew it was flat. That is to say, they accept it as being self-evident. So what is it that would give a general public the ability to say, I always knew it was flat? Well, that's the measurements. So where it's been mocked, ridiculed, and then violently opposed, now the public has the ability to accept Flat Earth as being self-evident. Why? Well, because it is self-evident. That's how we measure Earth in all circumstances and without exception. So to give the general public the ability to say, I always knew it was flat anyway, I never really believed I was on a ball because I always knew the self-evident truth of how Earth was measured, flat in all circumstances. Well, this is that thing. But the problem with that is that it takes away something from people who have a special secret that they can talk about, and how that the elites are withholding the truth of 9/11 or JFK or Mandela effect from them. And part of that truth that's been hidden by the hidden hand is the truth about flat Earth. Let me tell you about the distance to the geometric horizon. It's supposed to be 1.22 times the square root of the observer's measured height of a flat Earth in feet. But actually, we see too far. If I bring out my super zoom camera or my telescope, I can see beyond the geometric limitations laid down in this calculator. Num 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 num. Sniffing my own farts. That's what I say is the problem for flatties now being relabeled anti-globers. But if you want the general public to understand and appreciate how Earth is measured flat, then you've got to give that up. You've got to understand that for people to accept it, they must be capable of declaring that they already knew, that it was self-evident to them the whole time. Now, if the general public can turn around and go, yeah, I always knew, it undermines you being special as a flat earther, because you know something they don't if they're on a ball, don't you? But if they already knew and it's self-evident to them, that is to say, I always knew it was measured flat, then you give up how special you feel for being in the minority as a flat earther. But what do you want? You can't have it both ways. You can't simultaneously tell yourself you're special, sniff your own farts, and then have the world at large recognise it as being self-evident. You can't have it both ways. Now, the reality is, you can't hide the truth forever behind a religion of heliocentrism. That's a facade. It's a Formica-deep mask that will eventually be lifted as a veil always will be lifted. This veil can only be lifted if the public can accept it as being self-evident to them. Because what do we really fight against? People feeling ignorant. If you explain flat Earth to somebody who is on the ball and appreciates that they're flying around the sun, and you come along and take that away from them, there is a moment where they feel stupid. Now, nobody likes that. But if you give them the ability to say, I already knew that it was measured flat, then they won't feel stupid. They'll feel like they already knew. What does happen as a consequence is you don't get to feel special. You don't get to feel like the intellectual superior person that you got to feel when you were enlightening people, like a guru. Well, tough luck. You can't have it both ways. If you want the public to know, they need to be able to recognise it and say, I already knew anyway.
Well, we got to keep playing those videos of normal people measuring Earth flat.
Yep, I completely agree. That's what I want to do.
It's
And people have been starting to...
Right, I'd like to get in there. I'd like to get in there when you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one thing. Sorry, Jim, go on. Sorry.
Sorry about that one, Deck. Thank you very much. Au contraire, au contraire. The idea that you want the public to say, I always knew it was flat, I'm never going to wear that myself personally, because nobody actually knows the Earth is a globe, number one, right? That's the first thing. They're carrying a belief. No one knows it's a globe, one, because it doesn't exist. Two, no one's going out there to measure curvature. So the idea that you can now give them a get out of jail card kind of thing to say, oh, I always knew it was flat. That would be, I know they'd lie straight away. We've just spent 10 years trying to get it to them. So no, I'm not going to give them that opportunity to say they always knew it was flat. No, what it was that your body, your brain uploaded flatness everywhere. You didn't connect to it. So you can't claim that you knew. No, you cannot claim that. You can claim that you believed the Earth was a globe. That's it. You cannot claim that I always knew. That would be a lie.
I know it will.
That's funny, Jin. Hold on. I said the same thing.
Yes, I agree. First of all, Jin, yes, you and I know. In the same way it happens on a smaller scale when people come in and pretend that they've been flat earthers for 20 years. Oh, yeah, I've been a flat earther for 20 years. You're like, before this resurgence? Okay, well, 20 years ago, when did you find out and how did you find out? And they'll give you a bullshit story. They won't justify their declarations that they knew before you did, because they didn't. They're just lying. But in the case of the general public, that's what is required. They will require that get out of jail free regardless of how it's a lie or not. People need to be able to tell themselves that they're not stupid and ignorant and that they always knew anyway. Well, with measurements, they can do that. They can say, well, I always knew that, you know, you've only got to look at the scale on a map to know that it's flat, that miles are flat. That's how they work. I always knew that. So I'm not stupid. I'm not ignorant. I wasn't one of those dumbasses that thought I was flying around the sun on a ball. I always knew it was flat.
Ladies and
I said the
gentlemen,
same thing. Hold on one
hang
second.
on a minute, Neil. Sorry, Neil, because I just
Wait,
want
let
to
me
get
just back you up, Jin. 1 second. I said the same thing Jin said. When they were first penetrating into me, I said, you guys are giving them a get out of jail free card. I don't like it.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, the guy, hang on, please. Ladies and gentlemen, the guy who's measuring the Earth flat, or the woman for that matter, going out there measuring the Earth flat, cannot say that I always knew, because they are thinking they live on a globe, so they can't say they know that the Earth was flat. They can make a claim that my measurements were flat, and I'm measuring flat, but I didn't realize I was on a flat Earth. That's the actuality of the deception.
Yes.
And the indoctrination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But they can get away with saying the opposite, can't they? So when you say, well, I knew I was measuring Earth flat, I just didn't appreciate Earth was flat. Well, that seems almost redundant, which is why this is so beautiful. Because you don't need to disclaim it, do you? Oh, well, I always knew it was being measured flat because I was measuring it flat. Doesn't need to say, but I actually thought I was on a ball. Now, when you get cognitive dissonance, like the guy that we first covered, the guy using the trig points, right? He responded going, Nathan doesn't understand. That was his response. Because, as a few people identified, he does want to retain his ball belief, his religion. And as much as I got frustrated with you when you inserted it on the last guy, Jin, it is true, as much as it irritates me that you're highlighting it unnecessarily. It's still a fact, and you are correct. When you're like, yeah, but he does believe he's on a ball. Everyone does. Yeah, they do. But then they have to make apologies for that when they've measured Earth flat. Yes, I've just measured Earth flat, but you just don't understand how ball-shaped it really is a cognitively dissonant explanation for their ball belief that is incongruent with how they've just measured the surface. When it's the case that people want to adhere to the reality that they've just measured, no disclaimers needed. They just say, yeah, I always measured Earth flat. You don't need to add, but I believed I was on a ball, or now I know it is flat and always did. You just say, yeah, I measured Earth flat. I always have done. Because they have.
Yeah,
Exactly my words. I wanted to say exactly that, because that is how we experience it. That is how we all experience, you know. Everyone has taken a flight, yeah, a level flight. Everyone has some type of knowledge of the measurements. We talk about this almost every day, the measurements of Earth. And people in general will have a first-hand experience with one of the examples we give, like navigation, flight measurements, trigonometry, whatever the examples are that we give here. People identify with that, and that is the experience that people have in firsthand. No one ever experiences a sphere.
Thank you very much, George. That's exactly my point. And ladies and gentlemen, the part about feeling stupid, sometimes you have to feel stupid to know you've made a mistake. And I'm the first flat earther, first to be telling you this. You know, when I say the first, I'm the first person to always put his hand up when I'm talking to the Globers, that I felt stupid when I realized the mistake I made. Because that's how you learn. You've got to know that you made an error. That's part of being on. Hang on, please. That's part of being honest. Honesty to yourself. So when you know you've made a mistake, you put your hand up. Yes, I felt stupid. Of course I did. I always say that. Thank you.
Okay, let's just
He
commend
always just put
Jin,
his hand
right?
up.
Hold on a second. I commend you, Jin, right? I can do the same. So I can relate. I can be empathetic to your cause, which is to say you have the humility to admit where you're wrong. I do too. As do many of the people who I surround myself with. I like the fact that there's plenty of people who are humble enough to have the humility to admit where they are wrong. Most of the general public aren't that person. They don't have that level of introspection, and they absolutely do not want that feeling of being wrong. They don't want that introspection. They want the ability to be right. That's what they really want, Jin. So you've got to understand that.
I do understand that. That's why I always put that down as a disclaimer. When the questions I'm about to ask you, I didn't know the answer. I've forgotten some of the answers, and I didn't know the answer to some of them. And it's not an "I got you" moment here. I'm not clobbering you. I'm not trying to put myself up as better than you. I'm trying to get you to understand you're not on a roast chicken. That's it.
Can I get in there real quick?
All right.
D-Rose
What-
works all the time, and he can't get a chance to get in here. It's Thanksgiving. He's off. Can we give him the floor, please?
Go ahead, D.
I appreciate that, Neil. I just want to make it be clear that we're speaking about the general population, because we have to be honest. There are people that know and lie because of whatever oath, whatever agreement, great meeting, whatever it is. There are people that do know, okay? Because there are people that have the instruments, the resources, know the theoretical and the philosophical way to use those instruments, which measures Earth flat. They have it in their documents. That's the military. That's even NASA. That's even pilots who have one side that says, all I see is flat. They have the instruments that tell them that it's flat. There are people that do know and they lie. Then there are the people who believe, who is the general public. Then there are people like I can say myself, for myself, that I didn't know. But I didn't believe either way. It's just all I knew was I was hearing and being told it was one way. But I didn't know. And that's the problem with too many people. They want to be smart, like Nathan said. They want to be inclusive in the intellectual level of, oh, yeah, I knew that. Everybody knows that. Anybody would tell you that. That's the whole ego in mankind. They want to be the ones to know. They want to be the ones that's not left out, the outcast. So they're going to ride with the greater majority conjecture. So they jump on board. What? You think it's flat? Only a caveman would. Everybody knows it's round. But if man would just be humble and either say they don't know, or would the liars stop lying and say it is flat because we measure it flat, because the instrument flat, we wouldn't even be having this conversation and everything like that. So it's a bunch of egos that's doing this, whether it be whatever, even dealing with 9/11, whatever, the same thing, whatever it is. But in this issue here, there are people that know.
Yeah,
Everybody
us.
does not. Yeah. So to say everybody believes and nobody knows, that's not true. There are people that definitely know.
Couple of quick shout
Oh,
outs.
I'm referring to the general public. Sorry to cut you off there, but you're correct, sir. And I respect for you for what you said there. Just one thing, and I'll shut my mouth. And it's this, ladies and gentlemen, the flat earthers that I hang around with, like, for example, Berserker, Linus from the Jenna server, they always talk about the measurements and how Earth is measured flat, without a doubt. And especially on this server as well. We always talk about the measurements, okay? Always. We can't help but talk about the measurements. There we are. I'll shut up now.
I was just going to say in reaction to
But just before you
original,
do,
he
can you
mentioned
just
about the
shout out a couple of
pilots
super
and their
chats before you do?
instruments showing, horizontal horizons and treating the Earth as flat. The thing is, they're missing it. And it's the same as we missed it. We've had this example many times with the Eratosthenes, when we was being told that was globe proof about measuring angles over distances across the surface of Earth. That was the globe proof. We missed it. So you got your pilots following horizontal, pitched up above sea level. They know what they're doing, but they're just not twigging. It's just not, the two things aren't tying together for some reason. Now, secondly, I think it might be starting to happen with some of the anti-flat earthers. Simon Dan measured elevation angles with 1,000 participants to, measuring Earth flat. So he knows Earth flat because that's how he's measured it. Triangles was demonstrated a few weeks ago, talking about elevation profiles, the horizontal 0-degree baseline with heights above and below. And he is, as Nathan has just pointed out with another example, his excuse was, well, we have to show it like this horizontally because it's a bit complicated doing it on a sphere. So they know it's horizontal, they know it's flat because that's the example they're showing and giving you. And they're telling you that we're just doing it like this because it's complicated otherwise. So people are You know, you know what I mean? So there you go.
Right, just a couple of quick shout outs before we do anything else. So shout out to Goldie, who's just given me money. Thank you very much indeed, Goldie. 862 for the $10 super chat. Really appreciate it. And Kiltmon Kicks also says, reporting for duty, Captain Oakley and Sergeant Divergent Droid. Thank you very much, both of you, for the super chats. Really appreciate the support.
Real quick, back to the deck. I know what you're saying. Those are for the pilots that insist on saying it's a globe. I'm talking about there are pilots that know. There are people in that field, nautically and aerial, that know and are either summoned to some type of oath or whatever, but they do know. They know. That's all to it. They know. There is not a person on this earth that can say they don't know. That's like saying there's nobody that knew what happened with JFK and all these other things that people have been arguing about conspiracy. Somebody knows. They just held the oath to keep it silent, or they lie about it.
I disagree with you.
Just to get in there quickly, one last statement.
Sorry,
about that.
stationary.
Just let George go first. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
I'm just saying, I disagree with that statement, D-Rose, because you cannot be a pilot without knowing that the Earth is flat and stationary. It's in the manuals before even you sit on the cockpit. Yeah, you need to treat the Earth flat and stationary. Any pilot will know that.
Yeah.
So you're agreeing with me. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They know.
Okay. My statement was earlier on, just to clarify and to make sure no one misunderstands me. I said that no human being knows the Earth is a globe. No human being can make that claim. Thank you.
That is accurate. That is
because
very accurate.
all observations from cradle to grave have been on a flat surface.
Yeah, the measurements are all flat. That's how it's measured. But another shout out to Iron26. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Let's just see if I can bring it up. It says, I can still buy a mention in the book. Quote, too soon. Somebody else asked me about that a couple of weeks ago, actually, and I was like, I don't know. Once the book's done, I'll consider it. So there was a suggestion that I should put a whole list of people that wanted their names in the back of the book, just want their names there. I'm like, I mean, maybe I'll consider doing that for cash if I'm strapped. I don't know. I haven't really given it much thought. My main focus at the moment, Iron26, is just to get the book done. So maybe it is a bit too soon, but I appreciate your super chat. Thank you very much.
Wait, what do you mean? The book is going on? It's continuing? Jeez. I didn't know that.
Oh, what? Because my sacked editors said that there's nothing going on with it? No, there's nothing going on with it for them because they were fired. So they have no involvement, but the book continues to be produced with a new editor. Just because you've been sacked and removed doesn't mean that the company you've been sacked from doesn't continue to go on as it was. That's ludicrous.
So if I volunteer to work somewhere, I still have to work under somebody, correct?
Yes, Neil.
There is an authority. So basically, even if I volunteer, if I do something wrong, the person in charge can say, listen, you're out of here. Correct?
Yeah.
I just wanted to clear that up.
Right, so what do we want to do for the rest of this Thursday? We'll be doing housekeeping predominantly tomorrow, but what do you want to do for the rest of today's show? We've got about 25 minutes left or 20 minutes left.
Do you have anything from the book that you could tease us with or not?
I'm still bidding on microphones. I'm about to bid on an ABBA mic. So I bought a switchless version of the ABBA mic, and now I'm buying an actual ABBA mic. Well, I'm bidding on it. I've got 17 seconds left on this auction. We'll see if I win it.
Well, we could continue to talk about the measurements.
No, I'm been outbid. Bastards. By £1. Such is life. I didn't.
One of the main things about that, about Thanksgiving is the Thanksgiving Day parade, which goes down, I think, Broadway, stops at 34th Street at Macy's. And when Santa Claus comes driving by, that's the official start of the Christmas season.
I have a clause.
Uh-oh,
Morning.
10th man. How are you, 10th?
Good morning. Interesting conversation you're having. Let me add my 2 cents worth. So when I saw on the internet 40 pictures of Antarctica and it referenced Julian Assange, and in there said flat Earth, something sparked immediately in me. I looked at it. It was like a nanosecond. I turned to my wife and I said, I always knew this. Why is it hitting home now? So what we have to understand is every human being is a conscious human being as well as a subconscious human being. And so subconsciously, you know, Earth is flat. It's measured flat. You do it all the time with different things, but it's not registering because you're in the world where they're showing you globes and rockets and planets. And so you're just part of that whole scene. But subconsciously, the truth is there. So when people may say, I always knew that, they mean subconsciously. It just clicked. It didn't take hardly a second to say, I always knew that. Now, did I go around prior to that and saying, hey, Earth is measured flat, let me show you how? No, you weren't. But because that's the cognitive dissonance just broke, because that's all you needed, and your subconscious has so much firepower, it just overrode your conscious, which is what was lied to all those years.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick, in his last movie, which was released on the 30th anniversary of the moon landings, okay, a deliberate date there because of his previous film called The Shining, where he confesses that he took part in the moon landing hoax, okay. His title of the film is called, his last movie, 1999, it's called Eyes Wide Shut. Very important title there. He was trying to tell us all that we're all walking with our eyes closed, even though they're open. You understand? We're not taking in what we're seeing in plain sight, eyes wide shut. That was me right up until the day I realized about flat Earth. That was me, eyes wide shut.
Did he admit to that, though?
He confessed in The Shining. That was his confession vehicle.
Oh, okay, because there's been interviews with him and they've proven to be debunked that he was not in that interview and did not say that. If you're saying he did it in a way during the filming of The Shining, that's a different story.
Oh, yeah, it's in The Shining from start to finish, all peppered with Apollo references all the way through from beginning to the end. And it's meant to be a psychological horror movie from the book by Stephen King, okay, of this called The Shining, I think it was called, yeah. Stephen King book. There you go.
You want a little excerpt from what I wrote on Tuesday? I gave you some of this already, Neil, but I'll read it out if you would like, because it was some of the information specifically was acquired from 10th Man, and more recently from, I can't remember the name of the videographer, the Irish girl that we covered. I'll just read you a little excerpt. For centuries, new worlds were found in the area beyond the horizon and colonised. In the present day, the offing gets called Earth curve, and outer space is no longer the area where we found actual new land, but is now the sky, the one place no land can exist. Now, new worlds are not the uncharted territory beyond the horizon, open brackets offing, but instead the lights in the sky we use to find our way. Only the flat ground using flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements of those lights. Now the lights are the new worlds. Too far to travel to based on maths that measure Earth flat. ...
That's outstanding. I love it. Bravo, bravo.
That's in a little chunk about Stephen Chess. So the title, my wife was like, why don't you write about Stephen Chess? And I'm like, okay. So that was what I had in mind. And Stephen Chess links back to Eddie Bravo, because Stephen Chess called into InfoWars to tell Alex Jones how much he liked his products, and then tell him that Earth's flat. And he got, prank caller, prank caller! Earth's not flat, ladies and gentlemen. So it linked quite nicely to talk about Stephen Chess calling into InfoWars, to link back to David Weiss fighting over a globe with Eddie Bravo, who gave me a shout out. So you can obviously see how I could link that all into a chapter without, I'm slightly paraphrasing the beginning of that particular section that I've recently wrote. But yes, there we go.
Well, I would say that was a good move with Stephen Chess.
Very good. I've always felt he was just
Here
a
we
pawn
go.
in an ever expanding game.
Oh boy. But there is a king in that game, right?
Unless you want to pawn it off to someone else.
This is all a bit of a rookie move.
Well, just because we're on a board, it doesn't mean you can stop talking.
But we've all had a checkered history. Let's just move on.
Oh boy, here we go. Back to old times again.
Things aren't just all black and white, Neil.
You know, I used to get frustrated with this because I'm about to say something and somebody else jumps in and gets it.
Yeah, but you could say you had it 2 weeks ago.
Checkmate.
So the zenith, you were talking about the zenith the other day. What does that relate to?
Whatever's above your head.
Oh, lovely answer. Celestial sphere. That which is above the observer is a 90-degree position, which is a right angle. So you need that adjacent to say it's a 90 over your head. So it's incomplete to just draw a straight line from any star down through a body of a person in an illustration without showing perpendicular.
Yeah.
That's why they take you to the middle of a surplus globe that's not needed and put you on the equatorial plane and have no problem showing you there with the 90 and the horizontal line that has to cover and share the same baseline as the GP of the star and the observer. But on the surface, with that part of a semicircle under a tangent plane, they want to say it's different, but it's not.
Hey, Tim. And I love when you always broke that down and it's full circle today. And I want to talk about full circle again. It's not a coincidence to me. I don't know if somebody mentioned this before, but there was a time not so long ago where 10th Man was missing in action for whatever reason, his personal thing. And we were occupied, I like to use the word occupied, by people whom we know are now excluded, on their own cognizance, and even they're not invited back. However, it's so adequate and it's so appropriate, and it's not a coincidence the 10th Man is back. And 10th Man being back with having the knowledge and sharing the knowledge from the beginning to the ending all the time, whether we caught it or not. Like I said before when I had spoke recently about this measurement issue, he's been saying it for the longest. So I'll say that again, the Titanic is not sinking. I don't know where you get that from, but it's even stronger than ever, okay? It is impregnable. The fortitude is like crazy. And this whole thing that's coming together right now is even better than ever. That's all I got to say. And welcome back, 10th. It's almost like back when I was on here before, hearing the voice of one of the guys that meant a lot to this whole channel and to this whole cause. And I'm appreciative. I'm pretty sure everybody else is. And, let's just keep moving. I don't want to hear the Titanic. I want to hear Noah's Ark. That's what we're on, baby.
Oh, there you go. When Brian said that we were the Titanic sinking, that really rubbed me the wrong way because it's almost like a personal insult to everybody that interacts in here every day.
It is. He insulted everyone in the panel. Said, "Yous ain't good enough to run the ship the way we would run the ship." They thought they took over the ship.
May I say something? I really have never left. I just had to take some time off. When your bride of 40 plus years passes due to cancer and you have other family issues, you take time off. It's simple. But guess what? Measurements have no egos. No matter what anybody says, measurements have no egos. And this is a show about measurements. How can measurements sink?
They can't. But there was a resistance to it, 10th man.
Well, I'm not worried about the human drama. Let people do what people do. I mean, I can't help that.
Right. We're just going to talk about the measurements because it demonstrates and proves that Earth is flat, and it always has been. That's how God created it.
Yeah, that's why our subconscious immediately is that part of us that says, I always knew this.
Yeah, but that didn't see. I get a little jealous when I hear that because when my brother told me, I went the opposite way. I berated him for weeks.
No, I know,
I couldn't find proof.
Neil, let me ask you something. The minute you did have the proof, it kicked in. It's just for some people, it kicked in right away because wherever they were in life, it happened to them that way. But it's always been there because you've been living on Earth for so many years. And you've got all your senses, your tactile, your feel, everything, your balance. Everything's telling you something. And then all of a sudden you hear this opposite view, and then that all kicks in like in a nanosecond because the subconscious is very fast. I always knew that. That makes so much sense. Wow, this is so logical all of a sudden. And I used to be an enemy of it before. And that's what's happening. It's not like they knew consciously. No, they were fighting it all those years. They were ballers. I would go see space movies and say, oh, that'd be interesting to go on a spaceship. I was in that world in that sense, but my subconscious always knew.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So when it did kick in for me, I was like, oh, yeah, it all came back to me when I couldn't find any proof of a globe. I was told climb a tree and stuff like that. Then I realized when I was in school and the teacher put the water in the bucket and swung it around and the water didn't come out, and that's how Earth has water stuck to it. And I said, wait a second, but that's inside the bucket. And I was told to get to the back of the class. Yeah. Then that did all start clicking. I got it.
Right. So you know my story. I was in school too, and my teacher was talking about evolution and all this other stuff. And I said, there's no proof for evolution. We didn't come from monkeys. And I just kept drilling him and drilling. Finally, he says, I don't even believe it. I just got to teach it. So shut up. Okay, yep. So that stuck with me. Oh, okay. So if my education is going to tell me lies, okay, so that was there in my subconscious. So when I saw all this stuff about flat Earth, it was instantaneous. But I didn't read any navigation books prior. I wasn't even interested in the subject. But how come it just kicked in so quick to where I say, I always knew this to my wife? And she goes, what'd you know? I go, the Earth is flat.
What did she say?
She goes, really? Are you nuts? And I go, no, let me show you. And then it just like, boom. I can't explain it other than it was just a time capsule ready to pop.
Well, Ted, back to what you was talking, and I said this before, speaking to my buddies I hadn't seen in 10 years, probably 10, 12 years, and we were catching up, and we started speaking on this topic. And my buddy Tony, who was the most argumentative while Bobby listened, he said, what are you talking about? There's spherical navigation, there's spherical angles. He was talking about the same thing you said. I said, so how would you measure 3,000 miles of travel, say from Japan to New York or whatever? How would you apply an angle to that? And I grabbed a basketball and I said, now, show me where the angle is. He said it would go from here to here. His finger went literally across. the middle or the top half of the basketball. I said, so you're literally putting the angle through the ball? Is that the surface? He said, well, no, that's how you got to. I said, no. Is that an angle? He said, yeah. I said, why are you traveling it through? Why don't you apply it on top of the surface? He said, well, you. And then he looked at Bobby, and Bobby looked at him, and they was like, oh, snap. They had that moment right there. They realized what they were saying. What Tony was saying was so ridiculous and stupid, but he said that's the way he heard it was taught. And I think that's when they had their awakening. And he called me back 2 days later. He said, man, I'm still thinking about what we were talking about the other night. And I'm thinking he's talking about whatever the other stuff we talked about. He said, and he brought it up. He said, when you were talking about that flat earth, and I think Tony is now understanding. So everybody has that subliminal, subconscious, already inherent knowledge of it, and they just have to see it for themselves and let their own words. But some people don't want to face that neither. Let's be honest. A lot of them are either liars or their cognitive dissonance is so bad they still don't want to face it.
Well, we know that. We know that because famous astronomers for 40 years who written books on everything that is a mathematical model, all of a sudden see it's a pure measurement, and they can't just throw away 40 years of astronomy and the schools they taught and everything else. So they brace against it with pride and fight. But measurements have no egos.
You hit it right in the head there, 10th man. A lot of money involved, a lot of education. They can't give that up. That's what Danny Faulkner stuck in that position. He'll gladly say that God stopped the earth from turning rather than looking at it for what it is, the scripture that is, where Joshua bid the sun to stay still in the sky for Israel to get a victory. He'll turn around and say, nope, God actually stopped the earth from turning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So they'll reinterpret God's holy word to match their paradigm, which is mathematical.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, in my case, ladies and gentlemen, the realization of flat Earth came in nanoseconds. I started to watch this video. I got 5 minutes into it, and everything that was presented to me in the 5 minutes made sense. I'd lived and experienced it, and that's when I realized. And in your brain, my brain went into a quick rewind in the nanosecond sense, looking for the curvature, and it was not there. And that's when I realized I was in error. And then instant embarrassment. That's what it was for me. Error and embarrassment that I'd missed all those clues. Unbelievable. But that's what it was for me. Thank you.
I wasn't so self-conscious like that. It was instant joy. It was like, oh my gosh, I feel like a bunch of clouds and walls have just disappeared. I want to go talk about this now. Yep. I wasn't angry. I was happy. I was relieved.
Same here. I went and woke up my wife like a giggly schoolgirl and told her it was fine.
I did. Yeah, for me it was embarrassment, anger at myself, of course, and then the happiness came, and then I did 8 hours of video watching, 8 hours, and then I went upstairs to tell the family, cross-referencing, because I'd been ignoring flat Earth for about a year, thinking how stupid it was, and I didn't look at any of the content. And it interrupted my research into the moon landing hoax, you see, and I thought, that was stupid. Who thinks the Earth is flat? What idiots putting this stuff up? Ridiculous.
Wait, so you just got it through the internet. My brother just told me one day, and I was like, what are you talking about? Because he said, what, you still think you live on a globe? I was like, well, what do you mean? Well, what do you think we live on? He's like, Neil, Earth is flat. And I hit him with everything. I'm like, but you're taking the glory away from God. Look at the universes that God created. He said, no, you got God far away. God's personal. He's close. He's right above us. And he hit me with a lot of feast and nonsense. But it made me look into it to the point where I went out to prove that there was a globe. And I couldn't find any proof. And I was shocked. I was like, but I learned it in school. I thought everything they taught me in school was legit. I mean, they did teach me mathematics. They did teach me how to read. So why did they deceive me when it came to the nature of where we live?
Hey, Neil, I don't want to insult you at all, but And I'm pretty sure you're not the only one that went that path. You know who else went that path and tells that in his testimony, but didn't come full circle like you with the truth? Dave Weiss. He was a globe believer, and he went out there trying to disprove the flat earth. And as he kept on going and going and going, even though he was eating a bunch of feast of nonsense buffets, that's his testimony. And that's nothing to be ashamed of, because that's
but he went to disprove flat Earth. I went to prove the globe. I guess it's the same thing.
No. He went to disprove he went to disprove. Yeah, he went to disprove the flat Earth, like you just said. You went to try to prove that the flat Earth didn't exist and try to prove the globe. He tried to prove the globe going up against the flat Earth assertion. And as he did that, he discovered he couldn't find any proof that the Earth was a globe. And then he was converted. So there's nothing wrong with that, except
I started looking into it from then.
He's still playing.
Hang on. I thought the last thing he said was it could really be a big globe.
Yeah,
he did.
Well, then he wasn't converted.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I redact that. Now, my feeling was vindication for my father. My father died in 2015. I didn't even know anything about you guys or this thing on the internet, but my father had already instilled in me. He didn't talk about measurements, but he did always denounce NASA and the moon landing, that it was fake. They're lying to us. He always instilled to me about Joshua stopping the sun. He always instilled in me about fixing immovable. So I always had that in me as a child. You know, they say you put in a child and it grew up to know better, whatever the term is. So especially now with the measurements right now, but the first time that I found out there was a community, a wise community, whether it was Feast of Nonsense or whether it was, Nathan's, or whether it was 10th, or whether it was Eric DeBay, or whether it was, the other guys out there that was on this journey, David Murphy, all of them guys. I felt vindicated. I felt the joy that 10th man felt. I felt like, I knew it. I had a feeling they were lying. So that's how I felt about it.
Well, I think I discovered Mark Sargent first. That I watched that whole thing and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that up close.
Yeah, props to Mark. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, in my position was I didn't try to debunk the globe. Debunk it because the flat Earth, because my experience up to the age of 53 had taught me that the Earth is indeed flat. I didn't want to debunk it. What I wanted to do is go and confirm it. That's what I went to do in the end, because my experiences had taught me that, we're living on a flat Earth. I've never seen the curvature, never noticed it rotating at all. So, let me go and confirm this. That's all.
So you confirm that it's the same thing. If you're trying to confirm it's flat or trying to debunk a globe. See, I was trying to find proof that I lived on what I was taught in school. Where is this proof because I thought I was going to get hit with proof everywhere. And the best I could find was climb up a tree. I was like, wait a second here. This is a problem.
Actually, that's a branch of science.
Terrible. With that, I'm going to say, if you're watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels, and to you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting me up on PayPal and Patreon, smashing the super chat, all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.